Hi everybody, today is March 9th, 2023, and today I want to talk about, I guess, placebo, and a word I didn't know is nocebo. So you've probably heard these words, placebo, in the sense of when you're doing, for example, drug experiments to detect whether a drug is effective or not, and what they'll do is they'll have a control group that is getting the drug, the main group's getting the actual drug, the other drug is getting just a placebo, meaning there's nothing there, a sugar pill or what have you. And the idea with that is to determine whether any effect is the actual drug or whether it's the so-called placebo effect. The placebo effect is very real. The new word I learned is nocebo. So nocebo is kind of like where somebody might be thinking that they're getting a negative effect from something when in fact it's just a sugar pill that they're getting. And I think this is a couple of things that have brought this up for me, and I'll share my screen shortly. One of them is I had a client lately come in, and he had been snow shoveling, and he told me that he didn't feel like he was making progress, that, you know, after coming to see me for 2 years, he felt that snow shoveling should be easy, and he wasn't feeling like he's going to make progress. Now, I'll come back to that. And then another client who came just a couple of days later, who's only been here for like 3 sessions, and told me that already she felt much stronger because she had recently been holding her grandchild, which normally she said she struggled with, and all of a sudden she said that the child felt really light and it was easy. And I think that in both cases, this placebo or nocebo effect is at work. And I'll go to some studies and whatnot of just how powerful this can be. So maybe I'll start there, and I'll just share my screen here. And let's see if I can go to desktop 1. Let's first of all see, once I'm doing that, whether or not I'm able to switch screens. Yeah, so, and for people who are listening to this as a podcast, you won't be seeing my screen, but I will have the links to this in the text that you can look up. So this one is from Substack subscription that I have to Sensible Medicine. It's an article called How Doctors Are Fooled by John Mandrola. And he's talking about a procedure, and you can see it's called, he refers to it as TMR, which is transmyocardial revascularization. So he had been a relatively new doctor at the time, went to work in this hospital, who were using this procedure on a regular basis. And they would actually open up somebody's heart and actually opens the chest and lasers many holes in the ventricle. It's done to relieve angina. And he said, you know, people had never heard of it. He had never heard of it going to medical school and working at other hospitals. So, and the people at this hospital used it regularly. And the patients all said that they were getting very noticeable results from it. Well, skipping ahead here, you can see the article. Later on, it was actually tested versus a placebo and found to not make any difference other than the placebo. And what this sort of brings to light here is the fact that placebo effect is way more powerful. I give somebody a pill, there's a certain placebo effect. If somebody gets the drug through an injection, the placebo effect has been shown to be much greater. And if, of course, in this case, they were like opening people's chest and going in and doing full-out heart surgery. So just imagine the placebo effect that's there. And of course, other things have been shown to affect the placebo effect, whether you put a lot of trust in the person who is telling you what they're doing and things like that. So going back to my client and the snow shoveling, he has a brother who is a surgeon and a doctor, and of course it's his brother, and the guy is a medical professional, and he continually tells him the thing about how, functional exercise. So functional exercise, that in order, instead of using machines and things like that, he should be doing calisthenics and things like that. to build strength that's going to transfer better into real world activities. And my thoughts on that, what makes the most sense to me with that is what I've heard before, is you get your muscles as strong as you can in the safest way possible, using whatever tool you have, and then you go away and build various skills. I also think that what happens, this person happens to be a type A personality, is when they attack the snowbank with their shovel, they always go all out. Well, if they are stronger and whatnot, then they're able to really work a lot harder, a lot faster, and they might feel tired faster. What I will concede is a little mini tangent yet again, is I do think that the whole so-called functional thing may have a strong enough placebo effect in itself, because if people believe that this is going to happen, then to some degree they're going to, identify things that happen where they feel like, yeah, I feel like I'm more able to do certain things, particularly with certain exercises that are reputed to improve balance, because apparently balance is just not a single skill. If you want to get better on a balancing beam, you have to practice on a balancing beam. If you want to get better at standing on one leg, you have to practice doing that. So doing things like standing on a Bosu ball and things like that are not going to help you with doing another activity that does balance, except where I can. And what do you call this? A placebo effect, or just, I'm going to say a confidence effect, is a lot of things that have to do with balance have to do with confidence as well. Because if you're, for example, on a balance beam and you're afraid of falling, your balance is going to be far worse than if you're confident on there. So if you've been doing work, exercises that are supposed to improve your balance, and you believe very strongly, there's at once the placebo effect, and then there's also the added confidence. Because if you go into some sort of balancing activity thinking, well, I'm going to be better at this now because I've been doing these activities, and your confidence is better, I think you will feel a specific improvement, but it's confidence that's come up. So the other thing I want to share here with my screen is, make sure I can do this. So yeah, the other one is placebo and nocebo in cardiovascular health, implications for healthcare research and a doctor-patient relationship. So that's a really good article. It's a study from the Journal of the American College of Cardiology that just shows that depending on the treatment, clients have basically reported that they feel better or they feel worse depending on what it is. So all this is leading to another thing, which is Ellington Darden. Ellington Darden, PhD, many people listening to this may have read many of his books and been influenced by him. Other people may never have heard of him. So Ellington Darden has written like 50 books on fitness, and many of his books contain pretty well documented things of either 2 or 3 individuals or large groups, and he's done things on weight loss, and he's done a thing on muscle building. And some people have said that, Ellington Darden wrote the same book 30 times in a row. And sometimes he comes up with new things and new methods and new little either rep schemes or different things that come up. And some people have said that, there's not much to that. He's just writing the same thing over and over again. But I know one of his books, he pointed out, and I think he was quoting Arthur Jones, that it was really important for people to believe in the workout that they're doing, and that would actually affect their results. And sometimes I look at some of the books that he comes up with a new method and different thing. And of course, one of the things he also did in many of his books, particularly those that lean towards the bodybuilding audience, he would have amazing photographs by, a reputed photographer, Chris Lund, and others of these great bodybuilders. And some people have criticized, I'm actually maybe one of them, is that very few of the people who were portrayed in the book actually used the methods that were there, and very few of them were not using performance enhancing drugs, but it was motivational, and to see these bodies and things like that. And I think that what Ellington Darden continues to do, not to put words in his mouth, of course, if he admitted this, he'd be ruining the placebo effect. Because when he comes up with a new book or new something, and don't get me wrong, some of them, particularly with weight loss, are extremely well documented. People have followed certain diets. I don't necessarily agree with everything that Ellington, where he's at with diets, as far as his macronutrient breakdowns and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you're following a systematic diet where you're cutting down calories and you're sticking with it meticulously and you're combining it with strength training, you're going to get good results, and that's what he has, and he documents it. So not to say that it's not well documented and effective, but some of the things, particularly when it comes to gaining muscle, recently he's come up with certain rep patterns. There's a pump up set that you do, and then there's a set which he calls a stimulate set, which is the one that does, and then he ends it up with a flutter set. Well, some people have ridiculed that by basically saying, and of course he includes also even a supplement that you should take, and some people have ridiculed and criticized Ellington, first of all, for peddling supplements and using this just as an excuse to peddle supplements. And also that these elaborate schemes don't make any difference at the end. But part of it, I'm thinking, is he's keeping the dream alive, and if people believe in it and whatnot, that can help a lot. So I don't know whether that's his intention. I can't put word in his mouth, but it strikes me that if you go in, so going back to my client, if he's got a brother who's a surgeon, and of course, always you're going to get people who, very few people have what it takes to get abnormally large muscles. So the other thing too is you go to a gym, a public gym, and you see people with big muscles, you run into your friend who's been doing something different than you, and all of a sudden he looks jacked and he's getting better results than you. And the natural thing is for you to think, well, what I'm doing is not working, I should be doing what they're doing. And of course, then if you're getting it from your brother who's a surgeon who works out and does these things, and you're hearing it, then you're going to all of a sudden think, well, this is not working because my shoveling is not going as well. Now, on the other hand, the second client that I named, who is thinking that, after 3 sessions, all of a sudden their grandchild feels lighter and whatnot. I'd love to take credit for that, and I do know that the early gains are the best gains. This woman is in her 70s and whatnot, but honestly, the first couple of workouts, I'm not even working people that hard. Maybe in the third workout, we're starting to get close to failure, and eventually we'll get there. So I think it's a little bit of wishful thinking on my part that my 3 sessions would have made a significant difference. But again, placebo effect, if people really believe in what they're doing, they're going to get it. Because remember, whether you feel like you're better at shoveling or better at carrying your grandchild is, a completely subjective evaluation. The only real more objective evaluation is how much you're lifting in the gym. But even that you have to be careful of, because until you're really going to failure, you're not really measuring what you can do, but what you did do. And also, I believe that neurological efficiency improves before strength improves, and even strength improves before hypertrophy happens. I also think that's probably the case as well. And of course, you have to be careful, because you can be lifting more weight because you're just compromising form ever so subtly over time, and maybe you're lifting more weight because of compromise in form. So again, there's a lot of moving parts to really evaluating progress, especially in a short period of time. But I think there's enough research out there and anecdotal evidence that we know that strength training, all else being equal, a stronger you is a better you. And to quote my friend Michael Petrella, stronger you is a better you. And doing strength training in an intelligent way, where you do it briefly, safely, and you allow your body to recover, and you make sure in between you're getting some fresh air and some good nutrition, some good sleep to allow for the recovery is going to help. Anyways, hopefully this made sense. I was talking kind of quickly, and always look forward to comments. Challenge me on any of this. And of course, sharing and subscribing is greatly appreciated.